Yo, what up guys, I'm Sammy and welcome back to the Soul Drop, and this is my first impressions look on the 361 degrees AG4 SE, right? So this is kind of like the special edition of the AG4, which was one of my favorite hoop shoes last year. This is such an amazing performer. It just kind of sucks that they increased the price. It used to be $100, but now it's $130. This shoe is $150, the SE, and also you guys remember this, the AG4 Soar. So this is kind of like the low top version a little bit of the Soar, and honestly I really like it because that was the thing that I really didn't like about the Soar. The high top kind of design is just so dang stiff, which we'll get into. These two shoes are the same exact price. The SE and the Soar are $150, and this is $130. So if you guys do want to comp, try to leave a link in the description box. But let's get it started right off with the Traction. So the traction is pretty much the exact same as the Soar. It says it's a W traction pattern, which I guess I kind of see. It's more like a herringbone, but it starts off really small and thin here in the middle of the outsole, you know, where the midfoot is, and then kind of gets larger and thicker, right? So that's a good thing. It's not really a high wear area here in the midfoot. But here in the forefoot and also here in the heel, it is a high wear area, so you want a thicker and harder rubber there, right? So yeah, how does the traction feel? It feels really nice. There's a nice loud high-pitched squeak as well, which has nothing to do with performance, but I feel like most hoopers like that. And the AG4 SE has a nice loud high-pitched squeak. Also, it seems to have a very nice bite so far on my wood floors, and it is this solid rubber outsole, right, with this like very light beige color. But with the Soar, I had this pretty much fully translucent rubber, and it was not good. It picked up a good amount of dust. So I didn't really like playing this shoe that much, right? On clean court, it was nice, but the SE, it feels like it's a little bit better. And of course, the regular AG4 is pretty much the same exact traction pattern, but there are these grooves here in the forefoot. It's a little bit different, but for the most part, it's pretty similar, right? And this shoe also had a really nice solid traction. So yeah, I feel like the SE, especially with the solid rubber, is going to be way better than the Soar, which is a good thing. Also for durability, it seems like it'll be good. You know, the rubber is pretty dang hard in the highway areas. The grooves are thick and deep, so the traction is feeling really good so far. A lot better than the Soar, which I didn't really like, right? So there's that. Moving on to the heel to toe transition. So the heel to toe transition doesn't feel too good because of the construction, right? So we have a drop-in midsole, right? And most drop-in midsoles, I don't know why companies or designers make it like this, but if it has a drop-in midsole, a lot of the time they make it pretty dang stiff here in the heel, right? You see all this rubber here? It's not even, like, there's no drop-in midsole, right? It's really flexible for the shoe. The drop-in midsole's right over here, and it's pretty flexible, right? But then here in the heel, it's super duper stiff. I can't even like really push it in that much, right? It's still stiff, so it's kind of clunky, or that's actually pretty dang clunky here in the heel. There is a nice little rounded shape, however, so that helps, but it's still kind of clunky, right? But then here in the AG4, I mean, we do have the rubber still coming up, right? Caging the midsole, but we actually have a good amount of compression. It's actually kind of soft, you know, I can actually press it, right? I don't know if it's coming out on camera, but I can actually press it a little bit more, or a good amount more than the SE and also the Soar, right? But it's not a huge deal. Like, most drop-in midsoles do that, you know what I mean? Like the Player 1 Plus, the Kobe 11, the Kobe 9 does that, 808s, you know? So anyways, coming here to the forefoot, we got a nice curve shape as well, and a good amount of forefoot flex, right? So this one has the actual drop-in midsole in it, and actually does have a nice little flex to it. But more than most other drop-in midsoles, this actually has a nice little spring in it. You know what I mean? That has to do with the Soar plate, which we'll get into. But yeah, most shoes that have a drop-in midsole is really flexible, right? And this is still pretty easy to flex, but there's a nice little tension to it. And then a nice little spring back as well, which is very nice. So overall, heel to toe transition, it does feel pretty dang nice. It's just a little clunky here in the heel. And now moving on to the cushioning setup. So like I mentioned before, it does have a drop-in midsole, and it's using Quick CQ Tech foam, which is super duper nice. I really like their Quick CQ Tech foam. So it's pretty much like a boost type of material where they heat weld it together and they get this type of material. They have this pretty distinct pattern on it, so you can't really tell that it's like boost, but if you look at it on top, it has that boost kind of pellet pattern, right? And it's pretty much the exact same drop-in midsole as the AG4 Soar, right? So we have these two, it's the exact same pretty much, and if you look at the bottom, it's pretty much the exact same as well. So yeah, we have, first of all, a lining on top of the drop-in, which I don't like as much. They have to glue it down here, so it makes it a little bit stiffer. It's still super duper soft for step and comfort, but it does make it a little bit stiffer because they do need to glue the lining onto the actual drop-in, right? Also, I mean, it doesn't really feel super sticky. You know what I mean? Like if you look at other drop-in midsoles, like for example, the Cloud midsole, or like the Kobe 9s with like the Lunar Lawn, that type of foam texture is sticky and it kind of grabs your sock. This, it doesn't really do that. You know what I mean? And I feel like that has to do with the actual like foam. It doesn't really like, it's not super sticky. So they had to add this lining or else it would have been a little bit slippery. However, I wish they would have done what the Ranger 1 did with the explosive midsole. They put like a silicone so it makes it sticky, or do what the 808-3 did with little grooves on top of the drop-in. You know what I mean? So that really was sticky as well. But I don't really like this. It doesn't really improve the lockdown that much, but it's not that bad, right? Also, another cool thing that they did is they put a carbon fiber plate. It doesn't look like it's full length. It's maybe like what, 75% length. But yeah, you can see through this like shape right here on the bottom of the drop-in, the actual shape of the plate, right? And it's inside of the drop-in midsole. It's sandwiched in between here. So that's actually really, really cool. You know what I mean? Usually it's either bottom loaded or they don't have anything. But yeah, it actually does add a good amount of tension to it, good torsional support, and a little bit of flex as well. And it's bringing this from the actual drop-in, so that feels nice. Step and comfort is really, really good. Also, core feel is really good. Surprisingly, it's actually better than the AG4. The AG4 actually has good core feel, but this is actually lower to the ground. Here in the forefoot, it's actually extremely low to the ground. Here in the heel, it does get a little bit thicker. There is a 5mm drop, but yeah, under the cushioning is still extremely soft. There's a nice little bounce, especially here in the heel. So the drop-in feels really nice. I love how the drop-in feels. I love the foam that they're using. It's just, I don't really like the lining material. And also another thing that I don't really like is that it feels pretty clunky here in the heel because it's just all plastic and rubber. And it's a pretty stiff rubber, like I said. So don't really like that all too much. And also the AG4 is really nice as well because it's using a soft mesh strobel board with a full length quick CQ Tech foam. So all these cushioning setups in all these shoes are extremely nice, right? And now moving on to the upper, so it is a little bit different coming from the SE and to the Soar. So the Soar is using more of like a mesh material, but there is a very thin layer of fuse over it. So it feels a lot like more sturdy, or like I guess a little bit more durable, right? But the SE, it's using their Xiaozong technique to make this upper. That's what they said. It just looks like lino weave, and it's really thin, right? It's really thin, but also very, very supportive. It also is pretty good for ventilation. There are some ventilation holes there. So I do really like how the toe box feels, and it stays pretty thin here in the midfoot. However, we also have this quick lock system where like where the eyelets are, you can see this plastic, right? And that also does stiffen up the upper a little bit to make it a little bit more supportive feeling, which is good, especially for Aaron Gordon. And then for the tongue, we have very minimal padding. That kind of sucks, you know, and also the material isn't the best for quality. It's like this really cheap feeling felt. But it is a very minimal tongue. And also on the bottom of the tongue, we have like a very open mesh that's really good for ventilation. It's also a half booty construction tongue, giving you a better overall one-to-one fit. And also on the sides, we can see these kind of like laces, you know, or straps, I guess. They're connected to the eyelets, it looks like. And that'll of course be better for support and durability. You know, it kind of stiffens up the upper as well, adding for more support. And then here in the ankle area, there's very minimal padding, especially on the sides of the shoe. In the back where your Achilles is, we have this nice foam pad, which feels nice, but on the side is very minimal, right? So overall, the upper feels really nice. And I really like this low top design a lot more than the Soar because it's high top design. It's not that I hate high tops or anything, but like this high top design in the Soar is just so stiff, right? And so here on the sides, it's pretty stiff, but here in the back, right here, you can't even bend it. Look, you can't even bend it at all. So you have no range of motion going this way. You know what I mean? And when you're kind of running, you kind of need that motion. I don't know why they made it so stiff here. Obviously for ankle support, you want to make it stiff here on the side so you don't roll your ankle this way, not this way. So either way, I really hated this design. And with like the clunky heel and also super stiff upper with this, I hated playing the shoe, right? But the low, I have no issues with that. You know, this is a low, so I don't have any restrictions there. Also, with this high heel tab, I still have good range of motion in my ankle. So yeah, I do like how the upper feels a lot better. It has better ventilation as well, especially through the tongue and the upper. And the quality is actually pretty good besides the material on the tongue. So there's that. Moving on to the fit. So I went true to size and it fits me extremely well. However, it is pretty dang narrow, right? So going true to size, my toes go pretty close to the edge of the shoe, which feels great. Also here in the toe box, it is a pretty snug fit, which I do like. And I went true to size for all of these shoes, also with the AG4 and the AG4 Soar. And they all pretty much fit the exact same, but the regular AG4, not as narrow. The SE and also the Soar, it definitely feels like my pinky toe is being smushed a little bit, especially maybe it's this like rubber material right here, right? But yeah, it's definitely squeezing the side of my foot a little bit, so be careful with that. So there is the fit there. Also, it's very easy to slide on. We have a very high heel tab, and also now moving on to the support and lockdown, it feels like it'll be very, very good, right? So first of all, we have this drop-in midsole, which has a sidewall, a raised sidewall on the side or on the lateral side. So we have a good lateral support. Your foot is not coming out of this footbed. So of course, that's good. But also on the outside of the shoe, we have all of this. So we have the rubber coming up right here. We have this plastic piece coming up here in the midfoot and also here in the heel. And it seems like there's an internal TPU heel count. So super duper good for lateral containment. Your foot is not coming out of the footbed at all. Also lateral stability, look at how wide the shoe is. You know, very wide base. You can see the outrigger right here. So yeah, I mean, this shoe feels really good for support. One thing that I wish that they did is, of course, like I said, make it a little bit stickier because that's one thing that I really like about drop-in midsoles is improved lockdown from the actual drop-in, right? It kind of grabs your sock in like the 808-3s, the Player One Plus, you know, the Kobe's, but this doesn't really do that as much because of this like lining material. So there's that. Moving on to the weight of the shoe, this shoe does not feel super light. I'm guessing like 13, 14 ounces. 13.8 ounces, so that is pretty dang heavy. The average weight of my shoes is around 12.5 ounces. The AG4 is a little bit lighter, coming in at 12.4 ounces, right? So yeah, it is pretty heavy on foot, but it doesn't feel super bulky. You know what I mean? Nothing's really protruding out that much besides, I guess, here in the heel. That definitely does feel a little, it's not that it's bulky, but it just feels a little clunky, you know? So I do like how the overall shoe feels on foot so far. It just feels so much better than the Soar because of the improved ankle mobility, in my personal opinion. Also, the cushion is feeling really nice too. And now moving on to the aesthetics, I love it. This shoe looks absolutely amazing. I love the colorway too, just with the beige colors, right? Also, this design, this AG logo, is inspired by a black hole, which is pretty cool, right? So tell us what you guys think of the aesthetics down in the comment section below. So wrapping things up, yeah, this shoe's feeling pretty dang good so far. I especially like the drop-in because there's just so much compression. Underfoot cushion's nice. Court feels really good as well. So we'll have to see on how it actually plays because it is kind of clunky, and we'll have to see on the impact protection. But yeah, I do like the springiness, you know, in the overall shoe. I like the carbon fiber plate. The traction's feeling good so far. The upper feels really thin and minimal, but also very supportive, you know, just feeling a little bit heavy. So yeah, my first impressions on the AG4 SE is feeling a lot better than the Soar, right? But is it going to be better than one of my favorite hoop shoes of last year, the AG4? We'll have to see on that. But anyways, that about concludes this video. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one.